The next morning, Duke Hugo sat at his desk, writing. Jerome quietly approached and placed a cup of coffee beside him. Your Excellency, the lady is planning to host a tea party tomorrow, Jerome announced politely, prompting the Duke to pause. Duke Hugo let out a satisfied sigh. Ah, yes, I heard about that. It's her first time hosting, Jerome continued, his hands respectfully clasped behind his back. What do you think about sending her a congratulatory gift? A gift? Duke Hugo echoed, puzzled. He leaned back, resting his chin on one hand. A gift? I'm sure she'd be delighted, Jerome said with a subtle smile. Duke Hugo glanced at Jerome's expression, then imagined Lucia's face lighting up with joy. A smirk tugged at his lips, only to vanish as panic set in. Wait, what should I give her? Although he'd set aside a generous budget for the occasion, he realized he had never given Lucia a personal gift before. I don't even know what she likes, he thought seriously. Up until now, he had only gifted his past lovers with expensive jewelry, something he knew Lucia wouldn't appreciate. Vivian wouldn't like those kinds of things. She had never told him what she wanted. And for the first time, Duke Hugo found himself at a complete loss. Jerome, watching him quietly, couldn't help but smile inwardly. I never imagined His Excellency would be troubled over a gift. I'm genuinely touched. Just then, a knock interrupted them. Jerome went to the door. His eyes widened in surprise. Oh, it's you? He turned back quickly. Your Excellency, Lord Philip is here. He's returned to Roham after a long time and came to pay his respects. Duke Hugo's expression changed instantly. At the mention of Lord Philip, his face darkened, rage simmering beneath the surface. Jerome tensed at the sudden shift. That murderous aura again! Lord Philip had once served House Terran as its family doctor, a tradition spanning generations. But when Duke Hugo left the territory years ago, Philip had vanished without a word. He claimed he was traveling, but never sent word and was gone for years. No one cared, since Duke Hugo had never been sick. In fact, he'd never required medical checkups, unlike other nobles. A family doctor had become unnecessary. Jerome barely knew the man, only that he once served the previous duke. It had always struck him as odd that a baron like Philip would serve as a house doctor. Perhaps he isn't as simple as he appears, Jerome thought uneasily. Let him in, Duke Hugo said sharply. And afterward, make sure no one comes near this floor until I call for you. Yes, Your Excellency. Jerome replied with a bow, sensing the gravity in the air. Lord Philip entered the room, maintaining a careful distance. Duke Hugo's smirk returned. It's been a while, old man, the Duke said coldly. Yes, quite a while, Philip replied calmly. You've grown into a fine man since we last met. I heard you went traveling, the Duke said, voice thick with sarcasm. I just returned, Philip said with a smile. What a pity, Duke Hugo sneered. You should have died while you were out there. Philip said nothing. If you've finished your greetings, then get out. And don't ever show your face in front of me again, the Duke growled. That's an order. You haven't changed, Philip replied, managing a small smile. You can't change what you are, Duke Hugo snapped, and you've always been lucky I didn't kill you. I suppose I should be honored, Philip said, eyes sharp. You spared me, after all. Don't flatter yourself, Hugo hissed. I'm only letting you live because of a debt. He recalled something bitterly. That foolish man once told me, you must honor the one who saves your life. Philip lowered his head, clearly affected. Young Master Hugo, you were once a kind and good man. That's why you were never fit to be the head of House Terran. That's right, the Duke growled. I carry this cursed title because of the son of a devil. Young Master Hugh. The moment the name slipped out, Duke Hugo's eyes flared with fury. Call me that again, and I'll rip that tongue out of your mouth, he snarled. Lord Philip fell silent for a moment. He sacrificed himself for you, young master, he said quietly. I never asked for that, Duke Hugo replied sharply. More than anyone, young Master Hugo wished for you to take your rightful place. You are both of the Terran bloodline. You have every right to be head of House Terran. The devil died in the West Tower that day, Duke Hugo said, his voice calm. Now I'm the one sitting here. I am Hugo. Duke Hugo. Yes, the title belongs to you. But when will you truly accept that you are the master of this house? Lord Philip asked. That will never happen, Hugo replied. I plan to hand everything over to him once he's old enough. Lord Philip let out a soft sigh. Young Master Demian is still too young. That's why I'm waiting. Here, in this place. Hugo said with a faint smile. I'll endure it until then. I see it differently, Lord Philip said. This role is more honorable because it's stained with young Master Hugo's blood. Duke Hugo didn't respond at first. He rested his chin on his arms, then spoke. You've always been clever, old man, he said. But if you had spoken this way back then, I would have cut your head off. He looked at Philip with a cold gaze. You fell silent that day, just collapsed at my feet. Did you know? I killed everyone who knew what happened that night, except for you. Philip didn't flinch. You left no trace behind. Exactly. I couldn't stand it. You're the last one who remains. So go to hell already, Hugo said, his voice edged with restrained anger. Once you're gone, that stench from the past will finally disappear. For the sake of his only family, the late Duke made a difficult decision. Lord Philip said quietly. Hugo's calm broke. He slammed his fist against the desk. A choice? He echoed bitterly. His mind drifted back to a moment in the past. If you accept becoming my heir, I won't lay a hand on him, the late Duke had told him. Back then, Hugo had sat silently, unaware of the trap that lay ahead. Long ago, the previous Duke of Terran sold one of his sons to mercenaries and raised the other as heir. Hugo was chosen. Hu was discarded. But in time, the heir, Hugo, was deemed too soft-hearted. The Duke decided to reverse the decision. Hu, once abandoned, had grown strong and capable. Now the Duke wanted him back. Hu had knelt, not for himself, but to protect someone else's life. Obediently, Hugo assumed his role. He studied, traveled, and presented himself as the proper heir. He gave up his old identity and manner of speech to become the noble son his father demanded. What he never knew was that Hugo, his brother, had done the same. For him. It was only later that Hu understood the cruel game being played. The Duke had used them both like pawns. And as long as Hugo lived, Hu knew his brother would never be free. In the end, Hugo had taken everyone in the castle with him. He ended it all. The late Duke pushed a boy, someone who couldn't even harm a fly, into slaughtering everyone, including himself, Hugo said, voice low but heavy with emotion. That wasn't a noble choice, it was greed, the worst kind. Young master, Philip began, but Hugo cut him off immediately. Don't call me that. I am the head of House Terran. I am the Duke. Why are you still stuck 10 years in the past? Lord Philip went silent again. I thought he might see things differently now that he's grown. I was wrong, he reflected. Will the Terran bloodline end like this? He wondered. No twins had ever been born in the family. Perhaps it was a warning. Breaking the silence, he finally spoke. I heard you got married, he said, but you won't be able to have a child with her. That suits me just fine, Duke Hugo replied without hesitation. Does the lady know? Lord Philip asked, his tone shifting. Don't you dare go near my wife, the Duke said sternly. Startled, Lord Philip took a step back. Elsewhere in the palace garden, Lucia walked quietly along the rose-lined path. Just as she paused beside a blooming rose, she heard her name. Lady Lucia, Jerome called. She turned toward him. Jerome, Lucia said with a warm smile. What is it? He stood before her, accompanied by her handmaiden. My lady, your maid mentioned concerns about your health, Jerome said carefully. Lucia glanced at her maid, who stood silently behind him, her head slightly bowed. Lucia sighed inwardly. So she went behind my back, she thought with mild disappointment. For the record, I am not pregnant, Lucia said evenly, and there is nothing wrong with my health. His Excellency is already aware. Jerome fell silent for a moment. With all due respect, my lady, if something were to happen to your health, we cannot avoid responsibility, he replied. May I confirm with His Excellency that he knows this? I told him from the beginning that I couldn't bear children, Lucia recalled. At the time, he only asked for proof, but afterward, he didn't seem to care at all. She knew that if she told him she could get pregnant, he might be more shocked than if she told him she couldn't. It's true, Lucia said calmly. His Excellency knows. But I'll make it clear again. Jerome's expression didn't change. And how can I be sure, my lady? Lucia regarded him steadily. He's not easy to convince, but that's only natural. He's a renowned butler, after all. I'll speak with His Excellency in your presence, Jerome. Will that be sufficient? Jerome relaxed slightly and gave a respectful bow. Yes, my lady. I apologize if I caused any discomfort. It's all right, she replied. You're simply doing your duty. Then she turned her gaze toward her handmaiden. As for you, Lucia said, her voice firm, you went straight to Jerome without checking with me again. She narrowed her eyes. I don't want someone by my side who monitors my every move. As of today, you're dismissed. She turned away, her tone final. Yes, my lady, Jerome replied. He didn't say more, but glanced at the trembling maid with quiet disapproval. She probably wanted to protect herself, he thought. But it was too impulsive a move. She placed the butler's judgment above the lady's. He watched Lucia as she walked away. She's far more decisive than I thought. Cold, even. Just like His Excellency. A slight smile tugged at his lips. Perhaps they really are a perfect match. But few knew the full story. Few knew the roots of House Terran. Why did the Terran family settle in the harsh, desolate north? Why did they live quietly under the king's rule despite the immense power they held? Very few people knew. And those who once did were now dead. The truth of House Terran was a burden passed down through generations, known only to the direct heirs. And now, only Duke Hugo and Lord Philip remained with that knowledge. Their sole purpose, the preservation of the Terran bloodline. To fulfill that goal, the family chose the North, a land inhospitable to outsiders, a place too harsh to tempt the greedy. It was a fortress made for survival, not glory. If I hadn't saved his brother that day, Lord Philip thought, he would have killed me long ago. It's only because I saved Hugo's life that I'm still breathing. Lord Philip broke the silence. Young Master Demian needs a bride, he said carefully. If not, the Terran bloodline will. I told you to shut up, Duke Hugo cut in harshly. Don't speak another word of that filth. Lord Philip stood his ground. Even savages wouldn't lie with their own sisters. You mustn't judge this by ordinary standards, Philip said urgently. The preservation of the bloodline is paramount. The noble bloodline must continue. Enough of this madness, Hugo shouted, standing with a sharp motion, pressing his hand against his forehead. I won't listen to this any longer. I'm done giving warnings, he said coldly. If I see you again, regardless of any debt, I'll kill you. Go, disappear somewhere. Live in silence. Lord Philip stared at him for a moment, then gave a silent bow and departed. Left alone, Duke Hugo sat back down, fingers rubbing at his temples. A headache was starting to throb. The Terran bloodline? Noble blood? He murmured to himself. That cursed tradition ends with me. After Lord Philip's departure, Duke Hugo continues writing as he addresses Jerome. You brought a female doctor from the capital, right? To look after my wife, he asks. Yes, Your Excellency. Should I call her? No need, Hugo replies. But don't let Dr. Philip near my wife. Jerome bows in acknowledgement. Though Philip can't directly harm Lucia, Hugo hates the idea of him being near her. He knows Philip might try to convince her to help continue the Terran bloodline, even suggest a concubine. Hugo doesn't believe Lucia would fall for such talk, but he still worries it might hurt her. I don't want to see those amber eyes filled with sadness, he thinks. Should I have someone watch him? Jerome offers, sensing the Duke's unease. Let him be. Just make sure he doesn't step into Roham, Hugo replies without looking up. And as for the lady, should I inform her? Jerome asks carefully. No, Hugo says after a pause. Don't let them meet, but don't make it obvious. She mustn't suspect anything. If she's told not to meet him, curiosity will grow, Hugo thinks. She must never know he exists. I will handle it discreetly, Your Excellency, Jerome assures him. One more thing, Jerome adds. The lady once asked why the West Tower is locked. Hugo freezes. And I told her what I knew, that the former Duke and Duchess passed away, and that your twin brother was the one who... Jerome bows. I apologize. I thought it was fine for her to know. She would have found out eventually, Hugo says quietly, still not looking up. What was her reaction? She seemed surprised, but more than anything, she looked worried for you. Hugo flinches. He opens his mouth to speak, but says nothing. I'll go riding. Don't prepare dinner. I'll return late, he finally says, leaving the room. After he's gone, Jerome remembers he forgot to mention the gift for Lucia. Soon, the day of Lucia's first tea party arrives. Nervous as I was, this atmosphere is so different, she thinks, watching the noblewomen around her. The women praise her elegance and the refreshing mood of the gathering. It's a stark contrast to the stiff parties in the capital. They're probably only being nice because I'm the Duchess of Terran, she muses. Lucia recalls her past life as Count Matten's wife. He was deeply involved in social life, but stingy. He never funded her hosting efforts. Now, with her first party going smoothly, she begins to feel more confident. As the tea party continues, Jerome arrives. "Apologies for the interruption, my lady," he announces. "His Excellency has sent a gift to celebrate your first social gathering. May I bring it in?" Lucia is too surprised to respond. The room buzzes with excitement as butlers bring in lush bouquets of roses. "So many flowers! They're beautiful! I didn't know the Duke was so romantic." The women gush with delight. Lucia, blushing deeply, stares at the sea of roses, a small smile blooming on her face. "He sent these?" Lucia quietly admired the flowers, her cheeks slightly flushed. "To think he sent me a gift like this," she thought. "Did His Excellency say anything specific when he sent the flowers?" she asked Jerome, her tone calm but curious. Jerome smiled, slightly caught off guard. He said he hoped the gift suited the theme of today's gathering. Lucia paused, surprised by the message, though she did her best to remain composed. "I see. I'll be sure to thank him personally," she said with a faint smile. As the tea party ended, Lucia walked her guests to the entrance. "This was such a delightful gathering," one lady remarked. "Please invite us again," another added with a smile. Standing by the door, Lucia watched them leave with Jerome. "You did well, my lady," Jerome said with satisfaction. They all seemed genuinely pleased. "Thank you for your help, Jerome," she replied. Then her expression shifted slightly. "By the way, there's something I'd like to ask." Jerome stiffened, nervous. It's been a while since I felt like this, he thought. "Of course, my lady. What is it?" he asked with a smile. "The flowers." Lucia began, locking eyes with him. "He didn't choose them himself, did he?" Jerome blinked. "Pardon?" Caught off guard, Jerome stayed silent, his mouth slightly open. Lucia chuckled softly at his expression. "I truly believed he sent them at first, but when you added that he hoped they suited the theme, that didn't sound like him. He's not that thoughtful. How could you know him less than I do?" she said with a small laugh. "Ah, well, my lady, Jerome stuttered, sweat forming at his temple. "It's all right. Thank you for the flowers, Jerome," Lucia said gently. "My lady, it's not like that." "Why," Jerome said quickly, trying to explain. "Master really did intend to send a gift. He even spent time thinking about it. I just chose flowers to match the occasion." "Really?" Lucia asked, her tone softening. "Yes, truly. Please believe me," he said, a little anxious. Lucia studied him for a moment. She murmured, sensing Jerome's sincerity, but also his nerves. Jerome stood there awkwardly, beads of sweat and even a small tear forming at the corner of his eye. "All right," Lucia said eventually, turning back toward the flowers. But Jerome continued, "It's the truth, my lady." "I said all right," she repeated, her tone firmer. "I'll thank His Excellency for this. You may go now." "I'll stay here a little longer. The flowers smell nice," she added quietly, still facing away from him. Elsewhere in the palace, Duke Hugo was finishing a meeting with his cabinet. "That will be all for today," he said as the room slowly cleared out. It didn't run past dinner time, but it still feels too early to eat, he thought, checking the time. Jerome approached. "The lady is on the terrace," he informed the Duke. "The terrace. Oh, right. She had a tea party today," Hugo recalled. "Her gift. I forgot completely because of that old man," he thought, feeling a pang of regret. "Is the party still going on?" he asked quickly. "No, Your Excellency. It ended a while ago, but the lady is still there. Since you didn't give instructions on a gift, I sent flowers to decorate the terrace," Jerome explained calmly. "You did well," Hugo said, nodding. "He always knows how to handle things," he thought. "She's still at the terrace?" he confirmed before heading out. He walked at a steady pace. As he reached the door, he paused. "It's so quiet here." Like time has stopped, Hugo thought, leaning gently against the doorway as he observed Lucia from a distance. She sat still, resting her head on her arm, eyes closed. What is she thinking about? He wondered. Sometimes, when I look at her, I feel a lump in my throat. It's a strange feeling. Not entirely pleasant, but not unpleasant either. His chest tightened. At that moment, Lucia sensed his presence and looked up, catching him at the door. She smiled. The warmth in her expression caught him off guard.